Alright, so for, I guess I know this is like my second deck collection video, part 2 of my deck collection video, part 1.5 maybe. So for my deck collection videos, what I'm going to be doing is I'm kind of breaking them into categories loosely. I'm going to start with the first 3 decks I got, which are these 3 here: the Crow Tarot, the Fairy Tarot, and 8 Coins Tattoo Tarot. I'm going to be talking about these 3. I'm going to talk about my favorite cards from each deck, and that's kind of how I'm going to go through my deck collection videos. The rest of them are kind of loosely organized. I have my next decks are my first 3 indie decks, and then the decks after that go by my mini decks. I've added some more mini decks, so I'll have another mini deck part 2. On those ones, I have a few mini decks that I also have the full-size decks of, so I'll be talking about all that at the same time. And then from there, it's kind of whatever I want it to be. So we'll start with the Crow Tarot. This was my very first tarot deck that I bought for myself. So I don't believe you have to wait for someone to buy it for you. If that's what you want to do, that's fine. I don't always think that's feasible or practical for a lot of people. But this was the very first deck I got for myself. I kind of taught myself. I learned how to read on it. It's an old favorite. You'll probably see it a lot in this channel. I read with it a whole heck of a lot. It's probably a little bit worn. It's my go-to deck. It's my easy to read for me deck. It's my go-to. Gives me the answers that I need. I don't always want, but I need them. So we'll go through my favorite cards on that. And I just love MJ Culinane's artwork. I have 4 of her decks. Planning on getting a few more of her decks. I absolutely adore her artwork. So we'll go through my favorite cards. The very first one is the Hermit card. I am not a huge fan of snow. I live in Colorado. But I'm not a huge fan of snow. I prefer to be inside when it snows. But I just think this card is absolutely gorgeous. It feels to me like you can hear the snowfall, like when you're out. Sorry, that was my cat. She knocked something over. It's okay. Like when you're out in the country and there's no traffic noise or people noise, and there's just like the sound that the snow makes when it falls on the ground, and I feel like you can hear that with this card. I know it sounds really weird, and I just absolutely love the artwork on this card. I picked, what I did was I went through and I picked 2 favorites from the major arcana, and then 1 from each of the suits. So for the Crow Tarot, the 2 favorites are the Hermit and the Hanged Man. I don't always have a reason for liking it. I just, on some of this, the color and the artwork really speaks to me. I seem to have an affinity for Hanged Man cards in decks. I have quite a few decks where that's my favorite card. It's not one of my birth cards even, so it's really funny. But I really like the poppies on the bottom here and the way that the crow is hanging. I just love how she did that. My favorite Cups card is the Page of Cups. And I got a couple reasons for this one. One is a little fish, little shark looking dude, and looks like he's got a little smile. It makes me laugh. I also like the background. This part here. Bumped my camera, sorry. This part here, so it looks like a quilt to me. And a really funny story. So when I was a baby, I'm 35 years old now. When I was a baby, my mom started to make a quilt for me. She made one for my brother when he was a baby. She finished his. She still hasn't finished mine. I'm 100% gonna send her to this video. But looking at this background, it reminds me of when my mom made quilts and what they look like. And it makes me all sentimental. My favorite swords card is the Six of Swords. So the swords are usually my favorite suit in a deck. I am an air sign. I'm an Aquarius, so I'm also the water bearer. So the cups and the swords tend to be my favorite suits in a deck. I know not a lot of people like the swords, but I happen to. I love this one because of this, all the swirls down here. It really, to me, it makes me think of like Van Gogh's work, and it's so dynamic in my opinion, and I absolutely love the way it moves and the way the card feels because of that. My favorite Pentacles card is the Three of Pentacles. So funny story, I've been getting this card a lot recently. So, not from this deck at all, but from the other decks I've been working with this month. But I like how this one is how MJ Cullinane put this together. I apologize if I'm saying her name wrong. I just absolutely love the detail of it. And the crows working together to get I think those are cherries. It's just absolutely stunning. A little flower crown. My favorite wands card in this one is the Ace of Wands. It's on the golden, I can't remember it. In the Wizard of Oz, the golden, follow the, whatever. I can't think of it, but it's like following the gold road to the shining city. And I just love how she illustrated that. I think it looks really cool. So yeah, this is absolutely one of my favorite decks. I think the artwork on this is just amazing. The way that she put together the patterns and the color, it's absolutely, in my opinion, a standout deck. I love the way it feels. I've worked with it so much that picking it up, this gonna sound really weird, but picking it up feels like saying hi to an old friend, and I can't say enough good things about this deck. You'll hear me talk about it more on the backs. Alright, so that's the Crow Tarot, my very first tarot deck, my first love. The second deck is the Fairy Tarot. This one still has Doreen's name on it. I really don't care. I might at some point just black it out because after all of that nonsense happened with what she was doing anyway, I was like, oh, that's cool. I don't give a rip about having a deck with her name on it. I could care less. I'd be happier if her name wasn't on it. But yeah, Doreen Virtue and Bradley Valentine, illustrations by Howard David Johnson. The artwork on this, sometimes I have issues with. Some of it is absolutely stunning, and some of it just confuses me. Let's see if I can find a good example. Oh, I think it's in the... yeah, like that. Like, what is that? That's so weird. It weirds me out. But other ones are absolutely beautiful, like the ones I'm about to show you, my favorite cards. So the Strength card, like, look how gorgeous that is. So beautiful and soft. I don't use the guidebook with this because I just go by the little sayings down there, and obviously by the tarot meaning of the specific card. So the Strength card, the Moon card is one of my favorites. I mean, look at that. Is that not stunning? I don't understand how this isn't the same deck as some of the other illustrations, but I love this card. The 3 of Summer is probably my favorite. This one is a weird illustration, but I like the joy. It feels joyful. They're like celebrating. I really like that aspect of it. My favorite, so sorry, the suits are renamed in this, and some of the majors are renamed, which kind of bothers me because they're renamed to be like softer. Which, if that's what you like, that's no, I have no problem with that. I'm not a fan of that sort of thing. But the suits are also renamed, so Summer instead of cups, Winter instead of swords, Autumn instead of pentacles, and Spring instead of wands, I believe that is. So my favorite Winter or swords card is the Queen of Winter. This makes me think of my mom because she loves winter. And I tend to think of her as the Queen of Swords kind of energy anyway. So this just, like, it's perfect. Queen of Winter, Queen of Swords. Yeah. My favorite wands, pentacles. My favorite autumn one is the Ace of Autumn. Look how happy she is. Also, whenever I see this card and this little girl in this card, it makes me think of my oldest niece because she is just the happiest. And this makes me think of her, which makes me so happy because she's the best. So that's why I like that one. My favorite wands card is the 9, or spring card is the 9. I actually really like this artwork. I also just like the 9 of wands in most decks. It's another one of those that I apparently have a strong affinity to. Yeah, I really like this one. An honorable mention is the 6 of spring, because that is just a beautiful picture. That is absolutely stunning. And it bothers me that something like this is like this is so beautiful. And then, you know, you get to like that, and it's so weird looking. And I can't, the artwork weirds me out in this sometimes. I have a bit of difficulty working with it. But yeah, I still like it. I still work with it. It was one of my first ones, so I feel kind of attached to it. At some point I may move it on because I don't have a strong attachment to Doreen Virtue decks. Like I said, I could care less that her name is on it. I have no problem with Radley Valentine by himself either. As far as I know, he's fine. I just don't really work with decks like that. So I may move that on at some point. But for now, I've got some sentimental attachment. It's one of my first decks, and I do still work with it. So the third deck was my first 3 decks. This is the third one, is the 8 Coins Tattoo Tarot by Lana Zellner. The backs. This is such a cool deck, in my opinion. The artwork is stunning. The way that Lana Zellner incorporated tattoo design into this, I think it's really cool. All of the cards have little numbers on the bottom because Lana drew these in like not in order from like 1 to 78. What they did was they had I think they said on the guidebook that they had like a friend or a family member who would take like a Rider-Waite-Smith deck and draw a card, and whatever card they drew, Lana would you know, do their style of that card and then move on to the next one. So all of them are numbered by order of when Lana drew them, which I think is really cool. I'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. So my favorite majors cards are the Fool and the World. Yeah, the very, very first and very end cards. I love the synchronicity of them. I think this is such a beautiful card. The blind fool and the snake getting ready to bite her. I love that. And I love the world card because it's kind of like the Fool all grown up. You know, looking forward to the future, bright, clear vision, and more wisdom now than when they started. My favorite Cups card is the Three of Cups. I love how Lana illustrated those cups. It's kind of like the tattoo design is on the cups, and even though there's just 3 cups, the way that they're put together, you can tell like you can get the message, you know, the teamwork, the working together. It's just beautiful. My favorite Swords card is the Six of Swords again. I like how the like leaving is illustrated, you know. This one's kind of a sadder version of that because it's like leaving behind your burdens to go away, and you can't always do that, but I like how that one's illustrated. My favorite Pentacles card in this one is the Two of Pentacles, because I love how it's illustrated to, like, you can kind of see like the outlines of the muscle and the form of the body, and I think that's so cool. And I love the simplicity of it and the simplicity of the color. It just looks so cool. My favorite Wands card is the Nine of Wands. This Nine of Wands is what got me started on loving Nine of Wands in other decks, because I feel like this was the first time that I really saw a Nine of Wands and I was like, oh, I get it. It's like you've been through the shit, you know? You've been through a fight. You're still standing, you're still going, and you're gonna make it. And this card is what got me to really see it. So I love this card. I absolutely, in my mind, this is so far in all of my decks the best Nine of Wands. It's at least in the top 3. Sorry, I just looked at one of my other decks over here and I was like, wait, I actually really like the Nine of Wands in that one too. This is, yeah, definitely in my top 3 favorite Nine of Wands cards. He had been through some shit, but you know what? He's still fucking standing. I have a couple honorable mentions. The first honorable mention is the Page of Cups. I like the koi fish. That's so cool. And you know, with the tattoo tarot and koi fish are traditional in tattoos, and the way that Lana illustrated this is so cool. My other honorable mention is so in this deck, what they did was they gave you some extra cards, because these were the first drawings that Lana did. Drawing 1, drawing 2, drawing 3, and drawing 4. Like, these were all the first ones that they did, and so they included them as like extras in the deck, and I think that's so cool because you can see like how they progressed from like the first versions to the ones that were actually included, you know, in the deck. And I just think that's so cool. One of my favorites is the Star card. I like the Star card that they included in the deck, but this is and it's such a cool example of like how they started to like where they ended up, because then you can see the Star card here is drawing number 80, and look at the difference in that. And I think it's so cool to see that progression, because they worked on this, I don't know how long, but obviously a long time, from number 1 to number 80. And so it's really cool to see like the progression of how their art style kind of got refined. I wouldn't say changed, but like refined. So this is one of my favorites. It's an honorable mention. So that is 8 coins. Tattoo tarot. Just the back again. It's really hard to see, but there is like it's not completely black, and then the mandala in the middle. There's like a very light gray roses around here. It's really cool. Anyway, so those are, and I keep this deck in a little bag, not in the original box because the box is too big. So those are forgot I zoomed in. Oh, that ring light's gonna bug me on that. So those are my first 3 decks.